Okay. Uh, my last video, the computer was trying to update, so it didn't go through very well. So I'm going to try to redo the same information as what I did in the last video, which was not intelligible. So anyway, so let me go ahead. The title is Why Were the Mammoths, Animals, and Trees Quickly Frozen in the Antarctic? In the Arctic. Hello, Redefined Living. How you doing? It's because um, maybe if I can get a little quick sound check to see if it's all working because my computer was updating the last time I tried and it came through very well. Very poor. So let me try to have that link about the mammoth shared the other night. Uh, well, I'm going to redo it right now, and because it was my previous video that didn't go through very well. But other than that, it's yo, Jerome, how you doing? Other than that, um, the mammoth, quick frozen mammoths and trees. There's been a lot of articles on them. Um, you know, all all around quite a bit, and I've always wondered. Of course, we've always wondered. Ever since I was a kid, I always wondered why in the world would these mammoths be preserved by being quick frozen. And I've heard that since I was a kid. So that's just shows you how long ago that was that it's been a question in my mind and the minds of other people's. So, and there's entire forests that were quick frozen. Of course, other animals, lions, wolves, and all kinds of animals, and bears and stuff. And they keep digging them up. So, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to explain why the animals and trees and everything were quick frozen. So, let me just go ahead and do this full screen here, full screen ahead, and I'll go to this picture. All right, there's a picture that I need. And this has some very valuable information here. One, the fact that India was connected to the Horn of Africa, which is right here, not far from where it ended up. So India just broke apart and smashed into Asia, uh, as Australia went north. So if you notice, Africa went north, South America went north, India went north, Australia went north. So all these continents slid north. And the parent center of the glaciers where they started moving out from was South Africa, apparently, according to this evidence here, these striations here. Of course, this had to have happened after the global flood because the striations in India and all these continents are on top of the sediments deposited by the global flood, not to mention the sediment layers line up, the fossil evidence lines up, plant fossils go all the way through all four continents or five. And so there's really no question about it breaking up after the global flood deposited the sediment layers, which should be the elephant in the room. But anyways, so this solves the mystery because here's the center of where the glaciers were moving out from, it seems, except we don't have evidence. There might have been another center here, but the point being that Africa was very near to the South Pole at the time. And it could be that Antarctica moved over top of the South Pole while all this is going on. But the Bible says in the days of Peleg, the earth was divided, which was a traumatic event, so traumatic that the lifespan was cut in half a second time from 500 years or less than 500 years to less than 250 years, just like that. So it's cut in half just like that from the global flood. 100 years later, in the days of Peleg, the earth was divided. It was cut in half a second time, just like that. So this breakup of the continent happened clearly after the sediments were deposited by the global flood. And as a result, more evidence besides the jaguars and the leopards and the greater grisons and the honey badger and the crocodiles and the rabbits, funny rabbits and rabbits, well, rabbits could have gone north, but anyway, the possums in South America as well. They have possums in Australia and South America. Ones in South America are really ugly because of the hot weather, hot climate on the equator, but that's another story. But there are South American possums and animals, both fossil animals and living animals from each of the continents. So what happened was 100 years after the global flood, in the days of Peleg, the earth was divided. The continents broke apart, clearly moving north because the glacial striations in India are going from south to north, which means that India was near the South Pole when the glaciers were scraping over the top of the sediment layers after the global flood. So everything moved north. India moved north, Africa moved north, South America moved north, Australia moved north. Everything generally broke apart especially in the Atlantic Ocean, Atlantic ridge. So that the word divided, Peleg, the word divided in Hebrew came to mean, in the Aramaic, came to mean as the waters flow. So that's interesting in itself. So that, to me, explains very well why the mammoths were quick frozen in America, in North America, Siberia, as well as, all the other animals that were quick frozen as well. Lions, wolves, bears, deer, all this stuff was quick frozen. Entire forests were quick frozen. It's clearly explained that in the days of Peleg, the earth was divided in the days of Peleg. So that's basically the new information, the breaking news, the most recent, fact that just dawned on me the other day. Explains everything. All this information explains a whole lot of stuff. It explains why people never made it to South America from Africa, because they were building the Tower of Babel. They only broke apart when the earth broke apart. Then the people separated in family groups and started speaking their own languages, and that's when they started spreading out. Of course, everything by the hand of God. God does everything. God teaches you everything you know. Every skill that you have, every ability that you have is given to you by God. So God is the one who gets the glory and the credit for everything that we do. Every ability that we have, even to walk and get up out of bed or run or jump or whatever, is given to you by God. That's why we're called little gods by Jesus. And the people that deny God are really a little bit out of their senses, they don't even realize that they are a god, doing things that matter can't do because they've been given power by God to be a little God, to act and move in this world, in this universe, fabricated universe of time and space, limited time and space, of course, especially our own specific lives are limited. But that explains everything pretty much very well. And of course, then you have from the center, this center of Uzbekistan over here, it's where you got the highest diversity of both the Y chromosome and the maternal mitochondrial DNA. Not Africa. Africa doesn't have the diversity of the Y chromosome nor the mitochondrial DNA. Africa only has L, or the mitochondria, and it only has A, B, and E of the Hamitic group because the C and the D went the other way and never went to Africa, which is another story. There's two Semitic lines, two Semitic mitochondrial DNA lines. One is the N, the other one is the R. Of course, the N is the more Middle Eastern branches of the mitochondrial maternal lines, Semitic maternal mitochondrial lines, and the R's are the more of the Asiatic maternal lines. And the reason why there is an Asiatic maternal line is because it's written in the Bible that Madai asked Shem to marry one of his daughters. And apparently more people did the same. But that's the reason why there's an Asiatic R line going through Asia all the way to America, all the way into America. You have the A maternal haplogroup. You also have the B maternal haplogroup, but the B is from the Middle Eastern line that went to the Philippines, apparently, because apparently there was a group of Israelites that went to the Philippines, and there's the B, the P, and the F maternal lines in Asia that are there that made it to Asia, and yet there's no paternal Semitic lines. There's maternal Semitic lines from Asia, from the Middle East in Asia, besides the other ones that are from the R branch of the mitochondrial line. And if you studied mitochondrial DNA, you know what I'm talking about. So there's two lines. One of them came from the Middle East, which would be the B, and the B made it to America too. So in America, you have the A, B, the C, and the D, none of which are from the same lines, except for the C and the D. The C and the D belongs to the Asiatic mitochondrial DNA. But of course, in Europe, 95% of Europeans, and maybe even more than 95%, have Middle Eastern mitochondrial DNA. That's a high number, 95%. So apparently, Japheth had a lot of sons, but apparently he didn't have as many daughters. And it turns out Madai asked Shem to marry one of his daughters, and apparently some of these others, like Tubal and Riphath and Gomer, Ashkenaz, the sons of Gomer, they also asked to marry into or asked or married into the lines of the Semitic mitochondrial DNA, because that's all there is in Europe. There isn't anything else in Europe. There's about, maybe in some parts, there's like 3% of the L from Africa. There's like 1% in the northern parts from the M line of the Asiatic mitochondrial DNA. So, so that explains quite a lot, and it's interesting that the Bible has all these details, like Madai asking to marry Shem's daughter. That's the reason why you have an Asiatic Semitic line that went all the way to America, North and South America, the A line. Then there's the B line that apparently crossed over through the Pacific, which is the B line is a Middle Eastern mitochondrial Semitic line. They went all the way to America, crossing the Pacific Ocean. I mean, so this is all extremely fascinating to me. Very significant, explains everything, says who made it, who didn't make it, who survived, who didn't survive, where they went, where they are today, everything. The lost tribes of Israel went into Europe, of course. It's the I-1 and the I-2 branches from Arpachshad, which are also from Israel, because the only Israelites, the only people that went into Europe, only Semitic ones besides besides E, but it's a different line. Elam is a H. G is Assyria. They're in Europe as well, but we know who they are. They're not from the line of Arpachshad or Arphaxad. And so the only lines in Europe from Arpachshad are the I-1 and the I-2. The I-2 is located in this Baltic region around the Caspian Sea or the Black Sea, west of the Black Sea. And the I is like a big, huge rainbow going from Spain all the way up into the steppe region. So the I, to me, seems like it's the tribe of Dan, which is what I am. But anyway, it's like a big arc for not only the I, but the I-1M253 is like a big arc from the steppe all the way through Scandinavia, all the way to Spain. So they appear to be the first ones that went to Europe, and we know Dan, the tribe of Dan, was the first tribe to go into Europe. At first they went through the Mediterranean, but then later they went through other areas as well. And Israel in general went to the north. They were exiled to the north, and from the north they went through Greece. They went between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea into Europe, into the steppe region, and went that way. But we know who they are because they're Semitic. They're Semitic lines, as opposed to the Eurasian R line, which is in Europe. The R1A and the R1B and the R2 more in Asia. They're all sons of Gomer. And the other Asiatic lines in Europe would be the Q. The Q also went to Europe and into Scandinavia as well. But the Q is highly associated with the Jewish people as well. So the Q is in Europe, but the Q is from the Medes area. The Medes are in this area over here. The area of the Medes and the Persians are from Persia, right? But of course, they went into Europe. They also went east all the way to America. So the Q is all throughout America. That's the largest population in the Americas is the Q. The second largest, of course, is the C from Nimrod, the Hamitic Cushite C from Nimrod that went all the way to America. It's the reason why the Olmecs look like Polynesians, because the Polynesians and the Olmecs have the same ancestor, Nimrod, with a Hamitic Y chromosome. And this, of course, the C, there's a C2 in the Pacific, separated from the C3 line that went into the Americas. So they're two separate lines, but they're both descendants of Nimrod, the Hamitic Cushite line, as well as the D. The D paternal Y chromosome goes up into Tibet, goes through east through Asia, all Japan over here, all the way to Japan. And northern Japan is over half the population has a D paternal Y chromosome descended from Kush. So, and of course, the descendants of the Denisovans are descendants of Kush as well. The Neanderthals are basically just Eurasians, descendants of Japheth. That's why all Eurasians, all the way across the board, are more related to Neanderthals because the Neanderthals were Eurasians, descended from Japheth. But the Denisovans are both Eurasian, Japhethite, and Kushite in the areas of Papua New Guinea, especially with a K paternal Y chromosome. Of course, the K is Japhethite as well from Italy, or that also settled in Italy. But the K also goes down into Australia. There's a K in Australia, and the C4 is in Australia too, which is another line from Nimrod that went to Australia. So it's very interesting. You can track so much with this information. And with the breakup of the continents 100 years after the global flood explains everything. Explains why the woolly mammoth got quick frozen. Explains why the trees in the Arctic got quick frozen. Is because all these continents were shoved into the Arctic 100 years after the global flood. That's why it all quick froze. That explains everything. And explains why you have jaguars in South America and leopards in Africa. And all the other animals they have in common, both fossil and living, and plants, and plant fossils as well. And sediment layers lining up as well. Explains everything. So, some people gotta get on the ball and start picking up on this information because otherwise they might get left behind. Anyway, what I got here. Okay, here we go. Let me backtrack here. Do you have the link about the mammoth I shared? Oh, that you shared the other night. Okay. I don't remember seeing it. Must not have been paying attention, or I didn't see it. Mammoth and horse DNA left in freezer rewrites Ice Age history, and it should take you to a Smithsonian article. Okay. Rewrites Ice Age history. All right. Puts mammoth that died in the Ice Age at 5,000. Yeah, well, we knew that anyway. I mean, there's so much stuff as people that know the human history, we know what the ages are, so it's no surprise to us whenever it comes back 5,000 years. I mean, the calendars are 5,000 years. The human calendars are 5,000 years. So it's no surprise that the mammoths come back at that age because that's what we expect anyway. Okay. Hope it shows up or not. Don't know if it shows up or not. Okay. So I'll try to find it anyway. The Life Science article titled Woolly Mammoth in North America Longer. What about the mammoth bone bed found in Waco, Texas? Well, because they were in America. It's probably why there's the Great Plains, because the mammoth brought up all the trees. That's why the Lord commands the study of scriptures. There's so many little things that the Bible says that are so significant, and we should know everything that it says with a citation. Amen. No need to overthink the Bible or add to it, right? Yeah. So I hope everyone enjoyed the latest information of the breakup of the continents, proving or showing how the woolly mammoths became quick frozen. Boom.